Hi, welcome to another short story. I just finished reading I just finished reading Way Up in the Middle of the Air by Ray Bradbury. And the next one that I'm going to start right now is The Highway. I think this one is much shorter, so it'll be very quick probably. But I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. These were written in like the 50s, so that if that helps with any context. But this is The Highway by Ray Bradbury. The cooling afternoon rain had come over the valley, touching the corn in the tilled mountain fields, tapping on the dry grass roof of the hut. In the rainy darkness, the woman ground corn between cakes of lava rock, working steadily. In the wet lightlessness, somewhere, a baby cried. Hernando stood waiting for the rain to cease so he might take the wooden plow into the field again. Below, the river boiled down and thickened in its course. The concrete highway, another river, did not flow at all. It lay shining, empty. A car had not come along in an hour. This was, in itself, of unusual interest. Over the years, there had not been an hour when a car had not pulled up, someone shouting, "Hey there, can we take your picture?" Someone with a box that clicked, and a coin in his hand. If he walked slowly across the field without his hat, sometimes they called, "Oh, we want you with your hat on." And they waved their hands, rich with gold things that told time, or identified them, or did nothing at all but winked like spiders' eyes in the sun. So he would turn and go back to get his hat. His wife spoke. "Something is wrong, Hernando?" "See, the road. Something big has happened. Something big to make the road so empty this way." He walked from the hut slowly and easily, the rain washing over the twined shoes of grass and thick tire rubber he wore. He remembered very well the incident of this pair of shoes. The tire had come into the hut with violence one night, exploding the chickens and the pots apart. It had come alone, rolling swiftly. The car, of which it had come, had rushed on as far as the curve and hung a moment, headlights reflected, before plunging into the river. The car was still there. One might see it on a good day, when the river ran slow and the mud cleared. Deep under, shining its metal, long and low and very rich, lay the car. But then the mud came in again and you saw nothing. The following day, he had carved the shoe soles from the tire rubber. He reached the highway now and stood upon it, listening to the small sounds it made in the rain. Then, suddenly, as if at a signal, the cars came. Hundreds of them, miles of them, rushing and rushing as he stood by and by him. The big, long, black cars heading north towards the United States, roaring, taking the curves at too great a speed, with a ceaseless blowing and honking. And there was something about the faces of the people packed into the cars, something which had dropped him into a deep silence. He stood back to let the cars roar on. He counted them until he was tired. 500, 1,000 cars passed, and there was something in the faces of all of them. But they moved too swiftly for him to tell what this thing was. Finally, the silence and emptiness returned. The swift, long, low convertible cars were gone. He heard the last horn fade. The road was empty again. It had been like a funeral cortege, but a wild one, racing, hair out, screaming to some ceremony ever northward. Why? He could only shake his head and rub his fingers softly at his sides. Now, all alone, a final car. There was something very, very final about it. Down the mountain road in the thin, cool rain, fuming up great clouds of steam, came an old Ford. It was traveling as swiftly as it might. He expected it to break apart any instant. When this ancient Ford saw Hernando, it pulled up, caked with mud and rusted, the radiator bubbling angrily. "May we have some water, please, senor?" A young man, perhaps 21, was driving. He wore a yellow sweater, an open-collared white shirt, and gray pants. In the topless car, the rain fell upon him, and 5 young women packed so they could not move in the interior. They were all very pretty, and they were keeping the rain from themselves and the driver with old newspapers. But the rain got through to them, soaking their bright dresses, soaking the young man. His hair was plastered with rain, but they did not seem to care. None complained, and this was unusual. Always before they complained of rain, of heat, of time, of cold, of distance. Hernando nodded. "I'll bring you water." "Oh, please hurry," one of the girls cried. She sounded very high and afraid. There was no impatience in her, only an asking out of fear. For the first time, Hernando ran when a tourist asked. Always before, he had walked slower at such requests. He returned with a hub lid full of water. This, too, had been a gift from the highway. One afternoon, it had sailed like a flung coin into his field, round and glittering. The car to which it belonged had slid on, oblivious to the fact that it had lost a silver eye. Until now, he and his wife had used it for washing and cooking. It made a fine bowl. As he poured the water into the boiling radiator, Hernando looked up at the stricken faces. "Oh, thank you, said one of the girls. "You don't know what this means." Hernando smiled. "So much traffic in this hour. It all goes one way, north." He did not mean to say anything to hurt them, but when he looked up again, there all of them sat, in the rain, and they were crying. They were crying very hard, and the young man was trying to stop them by laying his hands on their shoulders and shaking them gently, one at a time, but they held their papers over their heads, and their mouths moved, and their eyes were shut, and their faces changed color, and they cried, some loud, some soft. Hernando stood with the half-empty lid in his fingers. I did not mean to say anything, senor," he apologized. "That's all right," said the driver. "What is wrong, senor?" "Haven't you heard?" replied the young man, turning, holding tightly to the wheel with one hand leaning forward. "It's happened." This was bad. The others, at this, cried still harder, holding on to each other, forgetting the newspapers, letting the rain fall and mingle with their tears. Hernando stiffened. He put the rest of the water into the radiator. He looked at the sky, which was black with storm. He looked at the river rushing. He felt the asphalt under his shoes. He came to the side of the car. The young man took his hand and gave him a peso. "No," Hernando gave it back. "It is my pleasure." "Thank you. You're so kind," said one of the girls, still sobbing. "Oh, Mama, Papa, oh, I want to be home, I want to be home. Oh, Mama, Dad," and others held her. "I did not hear, senor," said Hernando quietly. "The war," shouted the young man as if no one could hear. "It's come, the atom war, the end of the world." Senor," said Hernando. "Thank you very much. Thank you for your help. Goodbye," said the young man. "Goodbye," they all said in the rain, not seeing him. He stood while the car engaged its gears and rattled off down, fading away through the valley. Finally, it was gone, with the young women in it, the last car, the newspapers held and fluttered over their heads. Hernando did not move for a long time. The rain ran very cold down his cheeks and along his fingers and into the woven garment on his legs. He held his breath, waiting, tight and tense. He watched the highway, but it did not move again. He doubted that it would move much for a very long time. The rain stopped. The sky broke through the clouds. In 10 minutes, the storm was gone, like a bad breath. A sweet wind blew the smell of the jungle up to him. He could hear the river moving gently and easily on its way. The jungle was very green. Everything was fresh. He walked down through the field to his house and picked up his plow. With his hands on it, he looked at the sky beginning to burn hot with the sun. His wife called out from her work. "What happened, Hernando?" "It is nothing," he replied. He set the plow in the furrow. He called sharply to his burro. "Burro!" And they walked together through the rich field, under the clearing sky, on their tilled land deep by the deep river. "What do they mean, the world?" he said. That's the end of the story. Wow. That's a bittersweet one. That one was bittersweet. And I love that final line. What do they mean, the world? Because for this couple, their world is perfectly fine. They're not in a rush. They're not fleeing. They're not packing themselves in a car. They're just like really oblivious to everything. I don't know if I want to even use the word oblivious, but they chose to be, disconnected. And I don't know. I think that's admirable. It really is a short story. Oh, I mean, I could add another one. But that one I think was a good compliment to the last one. I don't know. I only thought that because of the location, because it was a border story basically. And yeah. But I'm liking these short stories. I think it's so I don't know, I'm impressed the fact that they're basically written in the 50s, or they're published in the 50s. Yeah, but there's quite a collection here. I've already read The Veldt, and then we read okay, the one I just read was not in this. Was not in the Illustrated Man. I think I got confused. But we read The Veldt in this one, and now we've read The Highway. Yeah, they are refreshing. So, let me see if there's another, like, really, really short one. Just because this was basically like a 10-minute story. It's possible that was the shortest one in the entire collection. Yeah, the other ones that one was about 2 pages, and the other ones are like at least 7 to 10 pages. No, that one was let's see. Yeah, these ones have got some length. I'll say that. Yeah. These probably would be better as a different video. So, I think I'll cut it there. But I'm enjoying that these stories are about like the end of the world in ways, or massive, almost catastrophic events, but they still kind of end on a, I don't know, what I think is a good note. The last one ended on the hatefulness of that redneck, but at least we know that that the black people escaped. This one, it ended on a good note because, you know, the people were fleeing, whatever, they were doing what they could. But these people, they went back to their way of life. So that was positive. So, perfectly curated to the themes of all the rest of the stories that we've read on this channel. So, I'm going to cut this one here and probably resume the short stories next week. But I think I'm gonna start 1984 next week, because I had a poll in my Discord, and it was short stories and 1984. The other option, which is one that I really wanted to read, because I have read 1984 in school, but the other one that I was curious about reading was Make Room, which is the story for the movie Soylent Green. And I just rewatched that movie. It's a 70s movie, and I think it's really good. Oh yeah, you're completely welcome in the Discord. There's the reading where it's really small, okay? But I try to make it active. But sometimes in the Discord, for the longer stories, I'll post like fan casts, and they're really unhinged, and other people have posted their fan casts. So that might happen for the next story, which will either be 1984, or maybe I'll just go ahead and do the Soylent Green one, because I love that story. Really recommend. But yeah, I just finished up with Brave New World. My fan cast was unhinged. It was really almost illegal. Because when you read a story, you picture people, and I have no control over that whatsoever. So sometimes it's cursed, but yeah. And there's a part of the Discord for recommendations, and so far, I think I've gotten everybody's recommendations. So, oh, cool. Okay, so if you have recommendations and you want to hear something, then if you put it in the Discord, I'm definitely small enough that I get to every single recommendation. So, but yeah, that's where we're at. So, thank you so much for joining and watching and participating. I really appreciate it. It makes it really fun. I really like talking about the stuff that I read. So, hope to see you in the next one, or the comments, or the Discord, because it's been a fun time. So, thank you, and I hope you have a good day or a good night, whatever it is where you are. And until next time, bye.